Hey everyone, we got more great news for Nvidia stock investors today as Nvidia surpassed Microsoft to become the largest market capitalization company in the world. So that's a huge achievement for Microsoft and Nvidia, but Nvidia did this in such a short amount of time. It's been remarkable. So I'll discuss the steps and the journey along the way, how Nvidia surpassed Microsoft, and what it means for Nvidia and Microsoft stock investors. So let's take a look.
I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/Parkev for the 10 best stocks to buy now.
All right, here we see the journey of Nvidia and Microsoft's market capitalization over the last decade, and you can see Microsoft had been well ahead of Nvidia for many years. That is until 2024, when Nvidia closed the gap from 3 trillion to 1 trillion in a short amount of time. In less than 7 months, Nvidia exploded in market cap, adding roughly 2 trillion to its market cap. Now remember, market capitalization measures the share price multiplied by the number of shares outstanding. So it's not impacted by the stock split Nvidia recently completed, because it decreased the share price by 1/10 and then increased the share count times 10. So it just shifted the difference, right? It used to have a larger market price per share and then a lower number of shares outstanding. Now it has a lower market price per share, but it has 10 times more shares outstanding. So the market cap was unaffected by that change. Now, the increase in valuation has impacted the market capitalization as Nvidia's earnings per share growth has exploded in recent years, leading to this phenomenal increase in market cap. I highlighted Nvidia's earnings per share growth, and you could see over the last 3 years the earnings per share difference between Nvidia and Microsoft. You can see how close it was all the way up until the middle of 2023. They were demonstrating and delivering similar earnings per share growth, but then Nvidia absolutely exploded. Surprisingly, Nvidia was helped by one of Microsoft's investments, OpenAI, and its development of ChatGPT really put artificial intelligence on the map and really created this race to develop large language models and generative AI, which of course Nvidia helps facilitate with its GPUs, and that created a surge in its revenue and profitability. And look at this, earnings per share. There was a quarter where its earnings per share grew by over 1,000%, and its earnings per share has delivered several 100% growth in several consecutive quarters. In fact, it's been 1, 2, 3, 4 consecutive quarters where Nvidia's earnings per share growth has exceeded 500% year over year. 500%. That's so rare for a company with this large revenue base and this large a market cap. Companies of this size rarely grow at this magnitude for such a prolonged period. Maybe they have one quarter of growth like this compared to a bad quarter the year prior, but to have 4 consecutive quarters of over 500% earnings per share growth is almost unheard of with companies of this size, right? Smaller companies grow like this because they're smaller and it's easier to grow from a smaller base. But when you're already generating revenues of 20 billion, 22 billion every quarter, it's hard to grow from that base. But Nvidia has managed, and it's come on the back of this wave of artificial intelligence. Some are calling it the next industrial revolution because of the mass investments that are going into AI. Microsoft included said they're going to spend several $billions to increase their AI capabilities. Other large cloud hyperscale companies like Google, Amazon, Microsoft, Oracle, etc., they're all predicting and they're all forecasting increases in the billions, in the multiple billions of dollars to develop their AI capabilities. And of course, Nvidia being the dominant player in that industry is benefiting as a result of those trends. Now, another thing Nvidia has excelled in is return on invested capital. This is a measure of how good a company is at using investor money to generate profitability. And you can see over the last decade, it's fluctuated between itself and Microsoft in terms of the lead in this critical financial metric. But you could see in 2024, Nvidia has more than tripled Microsoft in the return on invested capital. And of course, that's one of the more important financial metrics that investors like myself look to when they're considering a company for investment. And if Nvidia is going to be that much better than Microsoft on this metric, then of course it's going to attract investor capital because they are so good at earning profits from that investor capital. And you could see how that's resulted in a growing market price. Now, if you look at enterprise value, which also accounts for debt, then Nvidia is still behind Microsoft. Nvidia has an enterprise value of 3.2 trillion, where Microsoft has an enterprise value of 3.318 trillion. Now, that's primarily because Nvidia has less cash on its balance sheet than Microsoft at 7.58 billion versus 19.63 billion than Microsoft, and also less long-term debt as Microsoft with 9.71 billion compared to 65.44 billion for Microsoft. Nvidia also generates less revenue than Microsoft, but generates more profits from that revenue, at least in the previous trailing 12-month periods and the previous, I would say, 6 quarters or so. Nvidia's profitability, its profit margins has absolutely exploded. So what does this mean for Nvidia stock investors and for Microsoft stock investors? Well, for Nvidia stock investors, this is evidence of its success. This is evidence that its earnings per share, its revenue, its products, its lead in the market is showing up in the company's financial performance. You're seeing it now in the increasing market capitalization. You're seeing its importance in the world today being reflected in the stock price, in the market cap. Large language models, generative artificial intelligence, it's becoming ever increasingly important. You have nations developing their own sovereign artificial intelligence systems. It's becoming a part of militaries worldwide. And so its importance has grown substantially in the last 2 years. And so the increase and the valuation reflects that importance, that increase in importance. Now, does this reflect a continuing increase in the stock price? It shouldn't matter. It shouldn't have a significance in terms of performance going forward. This is a result of its performance in terms of revenue, profit, and earnings. It's not going to impact its revenue, profit, and earnings. So it's a reflection of its continued success. So long as Nvidia continues to deliver these types of earnings per share growth numbers, then I think the stock price will perform well. The key is the performance, the financial performance, the revenue, the profits, and the cash flow. Did you know that over 90% of the people that watch my channel are not subscribed? It'll really help support my channel if you hit that subscribe button. And oh, by the way, one of the benefits of being subscribed is that I take requests from subscribers more often than I do from non-subscribers. So if you prefer that benefit, please subscribe to the channel.